This guy has top-tier talent as a white mage, but the hero kicked him out of the party, calling him useless. Little did they know every time they fought monsters, it was Lloyd secretly burning his own mana to give his teammates massive buffs. But the hero didn't notice a thing. Instead of appreciating his sacrifice, the hero got salty just because Lloyd stole the spotlight once, and he started holding a grudge. He told Lloyd to get lost and get out of the party. Man, it's because in this world, white mages are seen as totally disposable. Ever since Lloyd could remember. He's been studying magic under his master Marin. She rescued him from a battlefield when he was a kid, so he's always been incredibly grateful to her. The only problem is, Marin's teaching style is a little unhinged. A split second later, Lloyd gets blasted by a massive pillar of fire, leaving him roasted to a crisp. Compared to his master's insane level of control, Lloyd always felt like he was failing. But he didn't realize. He could actually replicate her magic perfectly after seeing it just once. Marin intentionally kept crushing his confidence, though, making him believe he was still a total amateur who needed to keep training. Not done yet, not even close. Wait, what? That's when Marin would give him that wicked smirk. And this gorgeous lady with the black tights. Yeah, she's a total alcoholic. To help his master feel better after her binges, Lloyd actually learned healing magic. As he poured his mana into her, Marin would snap right back to life. She'd even praise him, saying his healing speed was getting way faster. Being held tight by his master Lloyd finally felt like he was useful for once. But as soon as Marin got her energy back, she didn't care how exhausted he was from using his mana. She'd drag him right back into that hell training. And so Lloyd's miserable life continued. Time flew by, and one day Marin was staring blankly at a magic book. Lloyd knocked and came in to tell her dinner was ready. Right then, her magic book hit the floor. Lloyd just barely touched it, and suddenly it felt like an electric current surged through his entire body. Forbidden knowledge flooded his brain, and he just collapsed, totally unconscious. Turns out not everyone is worthy of that book. Marin realized it was fate. Late that night, she carried Lloyd to his bed and watched over him. The playful look was gone from her face, replaced by total seriousness. If Lloyd really was the chosen one, she wasn't going to let him make the same mistakes she did. Then she gave him a gentle kiss and blessed him. Since it was all destiny anyway, the only thing she could do was keep pushing Lloyd to his limits. As the mana began to flare, the entire tree burst back to life in an instant. Seeing that, Lloyd became more determined than ever to catch up to his master. Over the next few days, Marin started teaching him everything she knew about all kinds of monsters. She told Lloyd that among the orcs, there are some who can actually control beasts. That's when Lloyd realized he could actually read ancient magic script. Marin's brow furrowed, and she told him he didn't need to learn that stuff. She said it was just useless junk that died out hundreds of years ago. Then she started teaching him how to summon her with magic. At first, Lloyd failed a few times because his mana wasn't focused. But under Marin's brutal hell sessions, he still felt like he couldn't stand on his own. So next, he studied magic stones. A few days later, Marin suddenly blindfolded him and dropped him deep in the heart of the forest. Looking at the monsters in front of him, Lloyd knew he was in deep trouble. Marin just handed him a dagger and told him he had 1 week to find his way back home. Whoa, she's fast. Watching his master vanish in a blur, Lloyd stood there holding his dagger, totally lost. As soon as she was gone, a wolf-like beast lunged out of the woods. Lloyd freaked out and bolted, eventually climbing a tree to save his skin. After figuring out where he was, he realized home was hundreds of kilometers away. This was going to be a massive headache. He kept trekking toward home. When the sun went down and he got hungry, he used white magic to ripen some wild fruit. Even though the ripened fruit tasted pretty mid, he spent his time in a cave trying to build magic circuits. He needed to get home and learn to protect himself. During the day, he stayed on the high paths for safety. At night, he'd hide in hollow trees, calculating his remaining mana and boosting his detection spells, so he could stay on track and find food. Soon enough, he mastered a spell that let him run at high speeds. The next day, he accidentally wandered into a giant spider's territory. The massive thing almost crushed him into a pancake. Seeing how bad things were, he immediately kicked his magic into gear and hauled ass. By the time he finally dragged himself back home, Lloyd's body gave out and he collapsed right there. This made Marin really happy because it meant the kid finally had what it takes to survive. Seasons passed and Lloyd eventually grew up. One day, while cleaning up, he stumbled upon an old book. That was the first time he'd ever heard about the world outside, spending every day helping Marin develop all sorts of magic. Lloyd had gotten used to the crazy demands his master put on him. Marin was the type to get a sudden spark of inspiration and drag him into the lab for experiments. Late one night, Lloyd, with huge dark circles under his eyes, stared at a poster. He was longing for a life outside. So the next day he just left, deciding to go out and make a name for himself. The moment he saw the whole town for the first time, his heart was pounding, like crazy. The view was absolutely mind-blowing. He used his last bit of cash to buy some bread just to keep from starving. Suddenly, a poster blew right into his face. Little did he know this wasn't just some random accident, it was totally planned. Soon after Lloyd joined the hero's party, he followed the hero Aaron straight into a Cyclops' lair. Going through his first real battle as an adventurer made him finally realize why Marin was always so incredibly hard on him. While Shina was busy healing the hero, Lloyd secretly activated a magic circle. In a split second, everyone's energy was completely topped off. The archer let an arrow fly, hitting the giant right in the eye. The monster roared in pain and swung a fist, but the shield girl stepped up and blocked it. She didn't even break a sweat, having no idea it was all because of Lloyd's buffs. That's when the mage cast a rope spell, tying the giant up tight. Seeing his chance, the hero jumped high into the air and brought his sword down hard, ending the fight. Once Lloyd stopped his magic, only the shield girl noticed something was off. Back in town, everyone was buzzing about the hero's legendary victory. The clueless crowd actually thought the hero did everything himself. All that praise went straight to the hero's head. Back at their place, despite the mountain of treasure sitting there, the hero only tossed Lloyd 5 gold coins, claiming that's all a D-rank adventurer deserves. Lloyd was actually fine with it. He wasn't really the type to hold a grudge. Seriously, how can anyone be that nice? Get lost. The hero only needs mages. Don't sweat it. If it weren't for the rules, a team has to have a white mage. The hero wouldn't have brought Lloyd along anyway. I mean, that class is useless, in a real fight. And Lloyd happened to hear every single word from right outside the door. But the shield girl was still puzzled about why the monster's impact felt so light. Meanwhile, in the woods, Will went to report to Marin. Everything was going according to plan. Lloyd had successfully joined the hero's team. Marin knew it was finally time for the boy to see the world. As long as Lloyd didn't get a big head, everything should be fine. When Will brought up the past, a look of deep regret washed over Marin's face. Years ago, while fighting the Demon King, the monster self-destructed just to grab a magic book. The explosion leveled the entire town. Back then, it was Seville from his team who used ancient magic to bring back everyone the Demon King had killed. A few days after all that drama, the hero's party set off to clear out another monster nest. With the power of the Holy Sword, he was basically unstoppable. But he wasn't the only one. 3 others held weapons just like it. During the fight, Lloyd cast a magic barrier just in time, which took the edge off the attacks hitting the shield girl. And once again, the team took down a minotaur together. But the strange feeling coming from her shield over and over made her start to wonder. Watching the hero act so full of himself, the shield girl was honestly speechless. But hey, at least he did kill the monster. So his strength was real. However, monster attacks had been getting more frequent lately. Word got out that someone was using golems to cause chaos at the border, so the party headed out. Thanks to Lloyd's detection magic, they quickly found the golems hiding behind a waterfall. Lloyd saw right away that the man's staff was powered by magic stones. Lloyd told everyone to take out the leader first. He cast a buff and told the girl to find an opening to take down the caster. Then he had the mage teleport the staff over. Seeing Lloyd pull off sealing magic out of nowhere, the whole group stood there in total shock. And just then, Lloyd's eye-catching performance really ticked off the hero. The guy was so distracted being petty that he forgot to dodge the golem's attack. Seeing him in trouble, Lloyd didn't even think twice about the danger. He dove right in and saved the hero's life. But instead of being grateful, the hero just saw him as a total nuisance. They managed to take down the golem, but right after the hero kicked him out of the party. He couldn't stand Lloyd being around thinking he was just an eyesore. Not only was he useless in the hero's eyes, but he even had the nerve to try and take charge. It was like Lloyd didn't respect his authority at all. Lloyd didn't really think too much of it, though. He honestly just thought the guy was right, and he wasn't strong enough. Before long, Lloyd now solo headed over to the Adventurers Guild. But as a white mage, nobody gave him the time of day. Most people just think it's a totally replaceable job. Just as he was about to give up hope, this girl with pink pigtails pops up right in front of him. She looks super stressed and is practically begging the receptionist to help her find a white mage by tomorrow no matter what. Since she was in a bind, the receptionist points her toward Lloyd. When she hears he's a free agent, her eyes completely light up. Walking down the street alone, Lloyd's feeling pretty down. He never imagined his first gig as an adventurer would end with him getting fired for being too weak. And it really stung that those words came straight from the hero Alan himself. It made Lloyd start to wonder if he really was just baggage. Little did he know, as soon as he left that jerk, the hero was already busy turning his party into a personal harem. Lloyd looks up at the statue of Marie in the plaza, thinking about how incredible his master really is. His master always told him he was just a total newbie, so it's no wonder the hero didn't want him around. over the next 3 days. Lloyd couldn't find a single person to team up with. But just as he's about to throw in the towel, that girl with the pink pigtails shows up again. Once she finds out he's a white mage looking for work, she doesn't even give him a choice, she just drags him toward her party. Come on, move it. The reason she's in such a rush is because their old white mage ran into some trouble. See, a few days back, her squad took on a high-level quest. They're all top-tier fighters, so while clearing out a bandit hideout might be a nightmare for others, for her, it was just another Tuesday. Their blue-haired mage wipes the floor with a massive fireball, while the rest of the crew stays ready for backup. Pinky here is a beast on the front lines, while her tank and white mage keep everything under control from the back. Pretty soon, only the bandit leader is left standing. It's only when he sees her badge that he realizes he's messing with actual S-rank adventurers. But he isn't going down without a fight. Fine then, you're all dying right here, he screams, summoning a massive monster. Everyone freezes as this massive shadow starts to loom over them. You've got to be kidding me. He had an ace up his sleeve. She never expected him to pull out a golem, especially one this huge. It's the biggest one she's ever seen. Their mage warns them that his spells probably won't even scratch it. So now it's all up to her to do the heavy lifting. She charges in with everything she's got, but when her greatsword slams into the golem's head, it doesn't even leave a dent. She screams at her white mage to snap out of it and buff her. Once the enhancement magic kicks in, she finally takes the beast down in one shot. After the fight, the girl apologizes. She was so worried about her sick sister that she just couldn't focus during the battle. She feels so guilty that she ends up quitting the team. Even though the rest of the crew understands why she's struggling, they can't take on any new quests without a white mage. And that's how we ended up back at the Adventurers Guild. But she was in such a rush that she didn't even stop to think about how Lloyd felt. She didn't even ask his name. After they finally talk, Lloyd realizes just how much trouble they're in. The girl's name is Yui. They've got this A-rank quest they have to finish, but without a healer, they're stuck. Still, Yui is such a sweetheart that she can't just sit back while people are in trouble. The tank and the archer are skeptical, though. They think some random guy they just picked up will never be able to keep up with their team. Even her best friend Silica tells her to stop being reckless. Lloyd suggests they just hand the quest off to another party if it's too much. But A-rank quests are only for A or S-rank teams, and every other A-rank squad is already busy. Right now, their S-rank team is the only one available to help. But they're still missing that one crucial white mage. Hearing all this, Lloyd is torn. After Alan just finished trashing him for being too weak, he really doesn't think he's good enough to back up an S-rank party. But just as he's second-guessing himself, the next thing you know, the pink-haired girl takes him out to the woods, wanting to see some support magic. She's looking at him with those big, expectant eyes, and Lloyd, feeling like he's just not good enough, feels totally ashamed. He's convinced he's about to let everyone down. Yui sees he's struggling and figures her orders weren't clear enough. So once she catches on, she tells Lloyd to just try casting some basic enhancement magic on the group first. Wait, is that really all I have to do? Lloyd couldn't believe it. Casting some buffs on the team was actually the test to join an S-rank party. Once Yui confirms it, our guy is just lost. It's not that he can't do it. It's just that it seems way too easy. But he figures maybe there's a catch. The next second, Lloyd pulls his wand out of thin air. With a single chantless spell, he buffs all 4 of them at once. And he's totally chill the whole time, like it's as easy as breathing. It isn't until Lloyd asks the pink-haired girl how the buff feels that they actually notice something's up with their bodies. Since they didn't hear him chant anything, they're all a bit skeptical. Then she spots a massive tree nearby, and she takes a swing. The next thing you know, a tree thicker than a person gets sliced right in half. Wait, what? Turns out what Lloyd cast wasn't just some simple enhancement. It was a massive stack of physical buffs, defense boosts, magic power increases, and even mana consumption reduction. A whole list of top-tier upgrades. Suddenly, it clicks for them. It's one thing to cast a spell silently, but to drop high-level buffs on 4 people at once. And he's acting like it's no big deal, but Lloyd actually thinks he messed up. Seeing everyone's shocked faces, he starts panicking. Is it because my magic didn't actually do anything? Oh my god, this literal god-tier support magic is nothing to this guy. It's absolutely insane. Little did he know the pink-haired girl was just too stunned to speak. And when they hear he just got kicked out of the hero's party, they're even more floored. Is the hero so strong he doesn't need a top-tier white mage? Meanwhile, Lloyd seriously thinks he's just average. The whole group is speechless. The thing is, he actually means it. He feels totally useless. He even suggests they should just bring their old white mage back. Everyone's expression gets a little complicated. They didn't have the heart to see their friends suffer like that. Silica noticed he was totally checked out during the last mission, so when he offered to leave, nobody really blamed him. But without a white mage, they could barely scrape by on basic quests. For high-level stuff, though, not having a white mage is a total nightmare. But more than the missions, they're worried about how Clem is doing. Seeing such a strong bond between teammates makes the newly fired Lloyd really envious. That's when he asks about the sick girl. The girl explains she has a disease that turns the body into magic stone. Locally, they call it crystallization. Anyone who catches it eventually turns into a statue in total agony. Lloyd's face darkens. If that excess mana isn't neutralized fast, that girl won't have much time left. Maybe I can try to dispel all that extra energy. Even though he's never used that forbidden technique on a human before, there's no better option right now. Hearing Lloyd say that, hope starts to spark in everyone's eyes again. Now let's see this genius mage really show off what he can do. In that case, leave it to me. Thinking back to Marin's lessons, Lloyd decides he needs to see Klim's sister for himself. The girl is a bit confused by Yui's sudden visit, not realizing that our MC is there to save her life. Klim explains his sister wasn't born this way. They used to be an adventuring duo together, but she got hurt on a mission. The moment Lloyd opens the door, he senses a nasty, ominous magic. Seeing the stone spreading over her body, he's certain of his theory. If he's right, this magic stone disease can actually be cured. Okay, I see what's going on. At this stage, she's still savable. I should be able to fix this. So let's get started. To him, this isn't even a challenge. Lloyd explains that she must have been cut by a high-purity magic stone in a place with a massive mana concentration. And it turns out Klim and his sister were indeed on a mining quest. Seeing the wound on her stomach, Lloyd quickly proved his theory. You see, only mana that invades through the physical body shows signs of spreading like that, which is what causes limbs to turn into magic stones. So our guy whips out his wand and aims it right at the girl's wound. In an instant, mysterious glowing runes appear out of thin air. He's casting a specific spell meant to reverse the mana transfer. This way he can suck back all that energy leaking out of her. Klim can hardly believe his eyes because right there in front of him, the kid is literally rewriting the magic circles on the fly. It's absolutely insane. To have that kind of insane control over mana, it's unheard of. Even though her body had already started turning into magic stone, it looks like she's slowly returning to her normal self under the influence of his spell. What's up, everyone? I'm Pony, bringing you the most hype anime recaps out there. Let's get into it. Now he has to keep the healing process going, while simultaneously absorbing all the mana spilling out of Silpy. Even though he says it's just some useless custom spell he made, he has no idea that casting 2 high-level spells at once like this makes him look like the absolute peak of all human adventurers in Klim's eyes. I mean, these 2 spells are from completely different categories, but even more importantly, all that raw mana leaking from Silpy is being absorbed directly into Lloyd's body, and yet he shows 0 signs of petrifying. This can only mean one thing. The amount of mana already inside him is at a truly terrifying level. By now, the treatment is almost finished. As the last of the magic stones are completely cleared away, Silpy, who had been unconscious this whole time, finally opens her eyes. Klim is beyond grateful for the help, but his sister still needs some time to recover, so he can't rejoin the squad just yet. Still knowing Lloyd is around, he's sure the team will be just fine. As for whether or not he should stay with this new group, Lloyd is actually feeling pretty conflicted. When he cautiously asks if it's okay for someone like him to stay, instead of the disgusted looks Alan used to give him, everyone responds with nothing but total respect and acceptance. To celebrate Lloyd officially joining the party, they all grab some drinks to cheer. This is actually the very first time since he came to this town that he's sat down to eat with real companions. But man, the way he starts devouring that food definitely gives everyone a bit of a shock. I mean, at this place, the food is really just average at best. However, to our guy who's spent his whole life living in the middle of nowhere, this is a straight-up 5-star feast. This is so good, I haven't tasted anything this amazing in forever. This is the absolute best. Lloyd explains that he's lived with his master since he was a little kid. Her cooking was usually just weeds from the yard and random mushrooms, or maybe some dry burnt meat. The taste was, let's just say it wasn't great. So eventually, Lloyd ended up doing all the cooking. Hearing this, everyone gets curious. What kind of person is this master of his? Anyway, thinking about Marin's career, Lloyd figures she's definitely not a white mage. If he had to put a label on it, she's more of an attack class. I mean, she blows the roof off the house every time she runs an experiment. Silica knows that teaching across classes requires an insane amount of talent and professional skill. If there's really a legend like that out there, she's got to go ask for some tips. But Lloyd is totally against it, and he literally tells her she should value her life and stay away. Apparently, Marin is just that unreliable. The group hears this and assumes she must be some super strict teacher. Little do they know in Lloyd's eyes, Marin is both a mentor and a mother figure. At the very least, she's actually a really kind person. Next, it's time for a strategy meeting. They've just accepted a new request. Word is a massive swarm of monsters has appeared at a farm nearby. They're destroying all the crops and food, which is a huge problem. It's the first time Lloyd's ever heard of monsters from different species forming a swarm like that. It definitely warrants a serious investigation. Besides, saving people is what being an adventurer is all about. So they immediately start hashing out a plan to end this crisis as fast as possible. Lloyd is super pumped for this. It's the perfect chance for him to get some real-world combat practice. No matter how strong the enemy is, as long as they work together, they're bound to come out on top. This epic adventure is just getting started. Let's see what happens next. All right, guys, let's move out. They decide that he and the pink-haired girl will draw the aggro. Once the monsters are all bunched up, Silica will go in for the kill. The combat engineer and Lloyd will handle the support. Any other wild cards they'll just deal with on the spot. Even so, Lloyd is still worried that he won't be able to help much. He's still stuck on the idea that he's just not strong enough. Getting kicked out of the hero's party really stuck with him. Little did he know, compared to those arrogant jerks who think they're all that. Just because they have a bit of power, a guy like Lloyd is way more likable. Our boy starts to realize, man, this is what real teammates are like. And when the shield guy finds out Lloyd doesn't even have enough cash for a room at the inn, he actually goes out of his way to lend him some money. Lloyd is seriously touched. That trust and validation from his comrades, it makes Lloyd vow to give it his all in this party. At the very least, he's determined not to be a burden like he was before. First thing the next morning, Yui actually manages not to oversleep for once. Even with monsters roaming around, she's shocked to see that no one is carrying any bags. Little does she know Lloyd already tucked everything away using storage magic. When Yui hears that her eyes totally light up. I mean, lugging around massive bags and weapons every time is a total pain. Seeing Lloyd handle all her gear for her, Yui and Silica are absolutely thrilled. That's when Lloyd mentions that storage magic isn't even that hard to learn, since everyone is born with at least a little mana, right? The shield guy just looks on feeling a bit outclassed. He's never even seen magic like this before. Who even knows how to do that? But man, if they could actually learn storage magic, it would definitely make life a whole lot easier. Seeing how hyped everyone is, Lloyd decides to teach them while they're on the move. The scenery along the way is just beautiful. Without heavy bags slowing them down, they're making great time. Their destination is actually pretty close to the Magic Kingdom. Even though things are quiet for now, you just know that one day they're going to come charging out, trying to take over the whole continent. Just then, the group comes across a suspension bridge that looks like it's about to fall apart. Yui, who's terrified of heights, decides to start a game to take her mind off things. Wax Cosmos. What is the air giving you a bad review? When Yui tells him to join in, Lloyd has absolutely no clue what they're talking about. Turns out it's just a little game they made up. They basically just act like idiots to distract themselves and take the edge off before a mission. Silica gives him a heads up, telling him he has to give the complete opposite of the right answer. It's like intentionally being a goofball, just to give everyone a laugh. But Lloyd is way too serious to even tell a lie. Ironically, his oblivious airhead personality fits the vibe of the game perfectly. And just like that, Lloyd's training ends up strengthening the bond with his teammates. Meanwhile, in a forest not far from their goal, a mysterious figure in black robes is kneeling and casting a spell, looking like they're performing some kind of dark ritual back with our group. The gang makes it to the campsite way ahead of schedule. Guess traveling light really pays off. Then Lloyd pulls out the tents and all the supplies, and they all work together to get the camp set up in no time. By now, Yui and Silica are all sweaty and gross, so they suggest heading to a nearby lake for a quick bath. But they still need to gather firewood and forage for food. Just leave it all to Lloyd. He agrees without a second thought. Since he's used to doing chores back home, this stuff is second nature to him. Not only does he gather plenty of wood for the fire, but he even finds some edible wild fruit using his village survival skills. Just as he's about to head back to camp, he hears Silica scream. The two girls never imagined they'd run into a monster when they were at their most vulnerable. It's attacking them, and they're completely naked with zero weapons. Worse, they've got nowhere to run. Lloyd sees what's happening and rushes towards them. Remember, he's the one holding on to all their gear. He moves incredibly fast. Lloyd fires off a fireball to grab the Naga's attention. The two girls take the chance to scramble out of the water and wrap themselves in towels. As for this disgusting beast that ruined her bath, Yui is not about to let it slide. With one swift swing of her sword, she slices right through half its body. The monster thrashes around in agony. Seeing her chance, Silica finishes it off with a massive fireball, turning the thing into ash. Little do they know that was all thanks to Lloyd's support magic. Yui wants to thank him properly, but just as she's asking him to keep hanging on to her weapon, her towel starts to slip after all that intense movement. So the very next second, well, the inevitable happens. Cut to Lloyd with a fresh handprint on his face, trying to explain the secret of storage magic to the group. He tells them they have to visualize a hidden dimension in their palm. Everyone is just staring at him like he's crazy. Not everyone can just cast spells without a chant like he can. They spend the entire afternoon trying, but they get absolutely nowhere. No one can figure out what he means by visualizing it. Finally, Celica is the first to find a workaround. She figures if it's a storage spell, they should at least try chanting a store command or something. Seeing her pull off that spatial energy trick, it finally clicked for everyone Lloyd's been casting without saying a single word this whole time. He just uses magic like it's nothing. But for the rest of them to do the same, they've got to figure out the right incantations for each spell. And wouldn't you know it, after a bit of practice, the brainy girl with the glasses, easily the most talented of the bunch, mastered the storage magic. Late that night, while everyone else was dead to the world, Lloyd and Yui were alone on watch. Her face was looking a little flushed, all red and cute. Lloyd figured she was still hung up on what happened earlier that day. But to his surprise, our pink-haired girl's first words were just a heartfelt thank you for sticking around. I mean, sure, Lloyd was mostly just looking for a new gig, but destiny has a funny way of working out like that. Our hero couldn't help but feel, well, curious. He wondered why she was so incredibly fixated on this mission. That's when Yui opened up to him. And the story behind it is enough to break your heart. See, back when Yui was just a little girl, her village was suddenly wiped out by monsters. She was the only one who made it out alive. Everyone else was gone. So when she heard it was happening again, she knew she had to step up. She wanted to actually do something this time, to change the future. Plus, if those farm crops get trashed, all the nearby villages and towns are going to be in serious trouble. But right as they were talking, Lloyd's ears perked up. He heard something faint. He told Yui to get everyone up right now. Those light skittering footsteps were all too familiar to a guy who grew up in the wild. But the sheer number of them was insane. The group scrambled to find a high vantage point to hide. They watched the swarm's every move. These magic spiders aren't exactly the pack animal type, which was weird. They had to figure out exactly where they were heading. Right then, Lloyd spotted another group of spiders creeping up from the side. They tried to make a quiet exit from the woods, but of course snap, someone stepped on a branch. That sharp crack was like a dinner bell for the spiders. They tried to book it out of there, but the spiders were too fast. In no time, they were completely surrounded. Looks like they're in for a real fight. The spiders started spitting webs trying to tie him up, but luckily the group was on their toes and blocked the first wave. Then Celica's staff got snatched right out of her hands. Those bugs are smart. They knew to take out the mage first. Just as it looked like they were all going to be wrapped up like human burritos, Lloyd jumped into action. He layered everyone with buffs, then yelled for Yui to take the lead and slice through the incoming webs. Meanwhile, the party's engineer managed to get the staff back to our glasses-wearing mage. Yui was using her massive scabbard like a shield and aiming her strikes right at the spider's joints. Celica let a fireball fly, followed by the engineer, who let loose 3 flaming arrows from his longbow, bullseye. 3 spiders down just like that. But then Lloyd realized, wait, he wasn't the leader. He'd just started barking out orders without thinking. He fully expected everyone to chew him out for overstepping his bounds. But honestly, nobody cared. In fact, they felt a lot safer with him calling the shots. That kind of trust, it really put a warm smile on Lloyd's face. By the next day, everyone had finally mastered the storage magic. They were getting close to their goal, but Lloyd couldn't shake this bad feeling. Those monsters back there, they didn't act natural. It was like someone was pulling their strings. Yui snapped him out of it, but the question remained. What's waiting for them up ahead? After seeing what Yui and the others could do, Lloyd felt like he needed to train even harder to be a white mage worthy of this team. That monster swarm's path was definitely suspicious. So he had to stay on high alert. The thing is, without even realizing it, he'd been taking the night watch all by himself for days now. Yui and Celica were worried sick about him. But his reason for staying up, he just wanted to make sure everyone else was well rested. So they'd be readied for whatever comes next. He even pulled the, "oh, I'm used to all-nighters" card. Yui was about to give him another lecture on taking care of himself, but Celica stopped her. "Seriously, girl, you're nagging again," she joked. But as they kept moving, Lloyd didn't let his guard down for a second. He kept casting detection spells to keep them safe. Our pink-haired friend was stunned he could use such high-level magic, but Lloyd just shrugged and said it was pretty basic stuff. He claimed his range wasn't even that great. Still, as long as he kept it up, they wouldn't be caught off guard by any nasty surprises. Yui was still worried he was overworking himself, so she offered to help. But let's be real, Lloyd's a bit dense. He totally missed the hint. And she ended up walking away all pouting. That night, she couldn't sleep. It's a bit of a bummer when you feel like the person you care about doesn't need you. It left her feeling a little unsettled. But Celica's take was simpler. Lloyd is just doing things his own way. She told her that teammates need to talk more if they ever want to really get on the same wavelength. I mean, what can you do? The guy is just so incredibly innocent. But Celica had a feeling. that Lloyd's true power. It was way beyond anything they could even imagine. Meanwhile, back on watch, Lloyd was approached by one of the mercenaries. The guy had a little job he needed help with. Before that, he'd leave the night watch to his friends, not wanting to let them down. Lloyd eventually followed the guy into the nearby woods. The mercenary seemed to be checking some kind of warning system. He mentioned that before Lloyd joined, they'd always use these gadgets to keep the monsters away. Plus, they all took turns on watch duty. Hearing this, Lloyd got a bit flustered. He never meant to upset his friends. He just thought being extra careful was the way to go. But the mercenary said what he really wanted to know was how Lloyd actually saw his teammates. By always doing the watch and scouting solo, it felt like he didn't trust them at all. Lloyd hadn't realized his actions were coming off that way. It reminded him of what his master and the hero said, and he felt like he was just a total amateur holding everyone back. But to his surprise, the shield bearer said he wanted Lloyd to drag them down, because the whole point of being in a party is to cover each other's weaknesses and work together. Being a burden is just part of being a team, so it's perfectly fine to rely on his friends a little more. You'll figure out your place in time. Hearing Lloyd still insist he wasn't strong enough, the shield bearer just didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If someone like Lloyd says he's not strong enough, the rest of them should just quit out of shame. Finally, with some encouragement, Lloyd actually crawled into the tent and got some sleep. By the next day, his attitude toward his partners had totally shifted. He actually asked Yui to help him fetch water, which made her feel like she was finally needed. Maybe needing someone and being needed is just how people save each other. Meanwhile, in an old mansion deep in the forest, that guy in black who'd been gathering monsters was reporting to his master. He'd already set the mana stones in all the right spots. Seeing the map light up exactly as planned, the man was thrilled. Everything was falling into place. All the high-ranking adventurers had been lured away on other missions. All that's left are low rankers and the hero's party. It's all going perfectly. The man in black was actually pretty excited to see how the hero would handle this. At the same time, Lloyd and his group were still heading for the farm. But the vibe of the forest was starting to get really creepy. In a forest this big, they couldn't see a single bird or animal. Especially weird, since they'd just fought off a bunch of monsters. The shield bearer felt it too. This forest felt totally unnatural. Even if the monsters weren't on the main road, it made no sense for the deep woods to be this empty. At first, everyone thought it was just Lloyd's magic scaring them off. But he explained he'd only used a bit of detection magic, which doesn't scare anything away. Seeing everyone worried, Lloyd tried expanding his search range. But he quickly realized something was very wrong. About 2.5 miles ahead, he picked up a massive swarm of monsters, right at the farm. When Yuli heard Lloyd could sense things that far away, she was absolutely floored. This guy literally just said his range wasn't that big, and then he casually drops 2.5 miles. That's 10 times further than a normal person can sense. Lloyd tried to explain that at that distance, the mana cost becomes huge. Honestly, if Lloyd keeps scaring them like this, their hearts aren't going to hold out. Regardless, they had to check the farm. They arrived quickly, and sure enough, the place was completely surrounded. But the sheer number of monsters was way more than they'd expected. Strangely, it was only wolf-type monsters. Where did everything else go? The pack was howling and snarling outside the farm. They seemed incredibly agitated and restless. It was so weird, it almost felt like someone was controlling them from the shadows. Normally, monsters don't just abandon their territory. Lloyd asked where the farmer was, but he'd already gone to town to treat his injuries. Without better intel, it was hard for Lloyd to figure out the right move. That's when Grimo noticed something. Among the wolves, something strange was glowing. But the others didn't have his sharp eyes and couldn't see that creepy black stone. Lloyd realized that stone was the reason the monsters were losing it. He immediately ordered everyone to stay put while he planned to sneak in for a closer look. But just then, the pack seemed to catch his scent. Every single wolf turned their head at once. The tension in the air became suffocating. Yuli gripped her sword ready for anything. She braced for a head-on collision, but Lloyd stayed perfectly calm as if he had everything under control. Seeing the situation, Lloyd decided to end this with some high-powered magic. He cast a vision enhancement spell on himself to get a good look at that stone. A second later, he cast it on everyone else too. Now they could all see it, a creepy dark stone surrounded by a black mist. Lloyd could feel the mana leaking out of it, and it felt like orc mana. Marlin had told him once that some orcs use a rare magic to control monsters. That stone was sealing that exact power. Lloyd realized something was off and cast his detection magic one more time, just as he thought he tracked down another pack of monsters this time. But man, the sheer numbers and types of beasts were way beyond anything he'd imagined. It looks like that magic stone is behind all this. No point overthinking it now, but if they just bail, the farm is toast. Plus, if those monsters get lured back to town, the casualties will be massive. And honestly, it's not even a given that they could get away in one piece. Right now, Lloyd's gaze is rock solid. Facing these vicious monsters, they've only got one choice: stand and fight. There's no other way out, but he's got a plan to wipe them all out in one go. He needs the archer to take out that magic stone first. But then Lloyd goes ahead and slaps 3 layers of enhancement magic right on him. The archer lets an arrow fly, and the stone shatters instantly. Who knew Lloyd's buffing magic was this insane? What they didn't realize was that the triple enhancement wasn't just on the archer himself. Lloyd also boosted the power of the bow and the arrow too. And yet there he was, acting like it was the most natural thing in the world. His friends didn't even know how to react because what this guy considers normal is definitely not what anyone else calls normal. Still, that magic only works if the archer can actually land the shot. Now that the magic stone's lure is gone, the monsters are reverting to their feral instincts. They're already starting to tear each other apart. That should take care of a good chunk of the problem. Yui is totally blown away by how much he knows. But the real headache is the 1,000 or so monsters headed their way. Next, he tells Silicia to lure as many of them as possible right into their line of sight. Once he's sure of this distance, Lloyd tells Silica to let loose with everything he's got using fire magic. With Lloyd's mana boost and support, the power of Silica's attack magic just skyrockets. A massive firestorm swallows hundreds of monsters in an instant. At this rate, Silica can pull that off 5 more times. Lloyd tells him that once he's done, he needs to switch to wind magic. See, by combining fire and wind, the entire forest will be blanketed in thick smoke. And in all that haze, those flying monsters won't be able to see a thing. So a second later, Lloyd casts detection magic on the archer. And since they're sharing their senses, the archer can see the flight paths of those monsters as clear as day. He fires off a few arrows and hits every single target. With that, their plan is complete. Then Lloyd steps forward. She's transferring the rest of his mana to Silica. He tells him to hurry up and make it rain to douse the flames. That way they wipe out the monsters without trashing the whole forest. His teammates can't help but be totally floored by how brilliant Lloyd's plan was. But in the end, Silica and Lloyd are completely drained and collapse on the spot. The rest of the cleanup is gonna have to be up to Yui and the shield guy. Still, Lloyd is a straight-up genius for coming up with a strategy like that. It's not quite over yet. So make sure you guys keep showing some love, and definitely stay tuned for what happens next. But man, being this wiped out after just that, Lloyd feels like he's still got a long way to go before he can really stand on his own. After clearing the farm crisis, he realizes they've been played. The enemy lured the high-ranking adventurers away from town on purpose, just to weaken Ishtar's defenses. Even if the town is short on adventurers, they've still got the knights and the hero holding the line. It shouldn't fall that easily, but that stone that attracts monsters is seriously bad news. Just to be safe, the pink-haired girl decides to head back immediately. Seeing that Lloyd gives himself a quick mana recharge and then slaps a speed buff on everyone. Right then, everyone's movements become incredibly fast. Lloyd leads the pack in a full-on sprint. It's the first time any of them have felt this light on their feet. Just by lifting their feet, they're clearing hundreds of meters in no time. Meanwhile, over on the other side, Mishul's client finally shows his face. The guy is none other than Ghulist, one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon King's army. Lloyd was spot on. The whole diversion was just a setup to invade Ishtar. Their vanguard is already closing in on Ishtar, and the key to their whole plan, the beast girl with the power to control monsters. To keep his client happy, Mishul has pulled out every dirty trick in the book. After he drained most of that poor beast girl's mana, she's now locked away in a dungeon. Right about now, Silica is getting a bit worried about Lloyd's mana levels, even though everyone else can use potions to recover. Lloyd's been burning through his mana non-stop. Little do they know Lloyd's been used to long-term spellcasting for a while now. After all, he went through all that intense training with Marin. Since a White Mage isn't a pure combat type, he had to learn how to master his mana control during his training. Thinking back to his days in the village, casting spells like this is just the basics. Lloyd and his crew are racing toward the battlefield to protect the people he loves. He's definitely not going down here. From the distance, the roars of the monsters are shaking the very sky. The town guards are fighting for their lives to hold the gate. Things have reached a total breaking point. Lloyd's dead set on this, so he's been absolutely crushing it during training. He's been non-stop practicing defensive magic to protect himself. But since he thinks this is just basic training, Yui is totally losing her mind. I mean, just look at him go, check out that insane level of skill. Seriously, this guy is just on another level. It's honestly hard to believe how humble he usually is. He literally has zero clue just how powerful he actually is. This kind of power, yeah, it's completely off the charts. And now he's about to bust out even crazier moves. Seeing Lloyd get carried away again. Yeah, the crew is pretty much used to it by now. No matter what they say, he still thinks he's not good enough. Guess even being a top-tier adventurer can't fix whatever's going on in Lloyd's head. Yui and Selka are just done at this point. Once everyone's finished resting up, Lloyd casts a detection spell to scout the area before they head out. Once he's sure the coast is clear, they hit the road again. Lloyd's speed boost magic is totally broken. Not only does it save their energy, but it makes your body feel light as a feather. Suddenly, Lloyd slams on the brakes. The whole crew gets caught totally off guard and piles right into him. Turns out our main guy's detection magic picked up something fishy. To figure out what's going on, he tells everyone to head back to Ishtar first, but they're worried sick about him going in all by himself. Because at the end of the day, his teammates have always got his back. Right now, 4 mages are huddled around a crystal ball, plotting their next move. They have no idea Lloyd and the gang are already closing in. Lloyd can sense demons inside. This is Yui's squad's first time actually facing demons. Riho had mentioned Demon Lord Island before, and their brutal culture. She warned that one day they'd swarm out and try to take over the whole continent. Now let's see how they handle this. Back during the Saladir War, the Kingdom of Lodo launched a massive war. It's common knowledge for kids his age, but Lloyd looks like he's never heard of it. The only thing he remembers is his time with Marie. It's making everyone think he might be a war orphan. But Lloyd doesn't think that matters right now. A demon invasion is big news and needs to be reported as soon as possible. The most important thing for the Knights is getting intel. He just picked up a mana signature exactly like a demon's, so he wants to go see what's really going on. These demons are likely tied to that farm attack. Since Ishtar is their target, they can't pass up a chance to get some answers. Plus, they can't just ignore demons lurking right under their noses. And then he says something. That actually sounds like something a real leader would say. His friends can't believe their ears. Once the plan is set, they reach the cabin only to find it empty. But after Lloyd does a quick scan, it looks like those demons are hiding out in the basement. The shield guy starts looking for an entrance, but Lloyd's got a much easier way. He casts a buff on everyone, and tells Selka to let loose with some earth magic. In a split second, the whole basement starts caving in. Yuri jumps in to pin the demons down, but these guys aren't about to go down without a fight. They try hiding behind some rocks, so Selka uses a sand trap to clear the way, while the shield guy keeps her safe. Mark tries to go after the demon that's making a run for it, but suddenly 2 guys try to sneak up on him from behind. Luckily, the archer steps up and takes them both out in one shot. Now, there's only one demon in a black robe left. He grabs a beast girl and wraps her entire body in a magic cocoon. Just as he's about to vanish with her, Lloyd and the others burst in right on time. Lloyd can feel it. There is some seriously insane mana coming from that cocoon. No matter what, they cannot let him get away with whatever's inside. Finally, they've got the demon completely cornered. Lloyd tries to grill him about the attacks, but the demon tries to fight back. Too bad his magic is basically child's play to Lloyd. Once he's dealt with, Lloyd rushes over to tear that cocoon open. Turns out it really was a beast girl. They carry her back to the cabin and wait for her to wake up. Right now, she might be the only one who knows what the demons are actually planning. Looks like she's from the Fairs Empire. Lloyd starts casting a healing spell. Selka can't believe how powerful his healing magic is. I mean, it makes sense the guy did cure that incurable MERS disease after all. When everyone heard this magic was his own improved version, they were floored all over again. Most people would never even dream of trying to improve magic. But Lloyd had no idea how crazy he was. He just wanted to help Marlene out, so he taught himself how to tweak spells. Later, he realized how much easier it made things. After all, his own master is a total weirdo, though most people wouldn't call their own master a weirdo. Under his healing light, the beast girl slowly opened her eyes. Thanks a lot, sweetie. Did that gentleman do something to me just now? Well. Startled by the girl's sudden energy, Lloyd eventually stepped in to explain who they were. He mentioned they'd sensed a massive surge of mana back at the farm, and had been tracking it ever since. He knew some beastmen could use magic to control monsters, and this girl right here was definitely the source of that power. The girl didn't deny it. Her mana had been forcibly drained, and poured into mana stones. Those stones, now brimming with her energy, had been scattered in the forest near the town. Now, a massive horde of monsters was closing in. This finally answered Lloyd's questions. He never thought monster-controlling magic actually existed. Such a divine talent, if it fell into the wrong hands, would be a total catastrophe. Hearing she'd been coerced by the demons, Lloyd's doubts vanished. It seemed the demons wanted to use the monsters as an army to raid the town, which is why they treated the poor girl like dirt. If the Magic Kingdom takes Ishtar, they'll have the perfect base for a full-scale invasion. Right now, they're using the monsters to wear down the knights before launching their main attack. It looks like they need to get back as fast as possible. Since the Beast Girl had nowhere to go, she tagged along with Lloyd's group. Thanks to Lloyd, everyone was fully buffed with high-level support magic for the run. They'll see the town as soon as they clear this forest. But then Lloyd used his detection magic again. A massive swarm of monsters was appearing right ahead, and things were starting to look pretty ugly. At this point, the only way to stop the crisis was to use the Beast Girl's power. Lloyd split the team into 2. He'd head off with the girl to stop the stampede while the others rushed back to get the knights ready. Splitting up was risky, but they didn't have time to second guess. This was the kind of plan that only works when teammates trust each other completely. But will everything really go as smoothly as he hopes? Meanwhile, back at Hero Alan's castle, he was still stressing over finding a new White Mage for his squad. You'd think everyone would jump at the chance to join the heroes' party, but the candidates were all total jokers. He didn't realize that Lloyd had spoiled him way too much, and now his standards were impossibly high. Normal mages can't keep up that kind of magic, let alone buff 5 people at once. The shield girl reminded him Lloyd was special, but the hero was way too stubborn to listen. He even planned to force the mission through without any support magic at all. Just then, word came from the knights that tens of thousands of monsters were approaching. Ishtar was begging him to help hold the line, and the arrogant Alan immediately agreed. The soldiers thought the town was saved, but little did they know Alan only cared about the high rank of the quest. Plus, he was in a foul mood, and wanted to vent his frustration over the whole Lloyd situation. He wanted to show those peasants that he was still the kingdom's greatest hero, but his teammates looked deeply worried. Elsewhere, Lloyd found the second wave of the monster army. This group was even bigger than the one before. Their goal seemed to be merging with the first wave to completely overwhelm the human forces. So, Lloyd's decision to split up was the right move. Now they had to break the stampede. That's when Cleva suggested stopping them without hurting them. They were just being controlled, lured by her own runaway mana, forced to become weapons for the bad guys. Seeing her resolve, Lloyd decided to respect her wishes. After all, solving things without killing was his favorite way to handle business. Oh my god, this is absolutely incredible. He wants Clevie to give it everything she's got, promising to bridge the gap if her mana runs dry. With Lloyd backing her up, Cleva decides to go all in on her control magic. Meanwhile, back at the guild, the remaining adventurers are huddling up. Everyone's trying to figure out how to handle this crisis. But Alan's being a total jerk, acting all high and mighty. It's honestly sickening. He's doing everything he can to put the adventurers down. And since he's the hero, everyone just has to suck it up and take it. Since most of them are only B grade or lower, Alan thinks they're basically useless in a real fight. Just as things are about to boil over, the branch leader steps in to play peacemaker. I mean, they don't have time for infighting right now. That's when Alan lays out his master plan. He wants the mages to step up first and blast the gluttonous beasts with their strongest spells to wipe them out. After that, he'll lead the knights and adventurers in for the kill, hoping to end the monster threat in one shot. What he doesn't realize is, the only reason he could pull off stunts like that before was because of Lloyd's support magic. He's been taking it for granted this whole time, but without Lloyd's help, even the mages in his own party aren't confident they can pull it off. And ever since Lloyd left, the power of his own magic has tanked, and he's not the only one getting weaker. When Alan hears this, he absolutely loses it. He's freaking out. There is no way that regular guy was the reason for their success. There has to be some kind of trick. He flat out refuses to believe the truth. But the reality is, he's been so obsessed with the fame and glory of being a hero that he stopped training ages ago. He's completely unprepared for the coming disaster. He never would have noticed the change on his own, and the crowd is stunned by the news. This isn't the hero they imagined at all. The shield girl even tells him straight to his face that he's not fit to be called a hero. In rage, Alan throws a punch at her, but it's so weak and pathetic it doesn't even leave a scratch. Instantly, the room is filled with judging stares. In the end, he has to slink out of the guild in disgrace with the saint and the others trailing behind him. Now, the other adventurers are starting to get cold feet. After all, if the hero can't handle it, what hope do they have? That's when the shield girl steps up. She decides to quit the hero's party to help save the town herself. Then she starts asking around for Lloyd, because she knows he was the real heart of the team. Meanwhile, Lloyd has found one of those magic stones from before. It's giving off a really nasty, ominous vibe, to the point where it's messing with Cleva's control magic. Looking at the sheer number of monsters, these stones must be hidden all over the place. As long as those stones are around, Cleva won't be able to control the beasts. Luckily, Lloyd can sense them if he gets close enough. Lloyd immediately cranks up his detection range. He even uses a shared consciousness to pinpoint the rest of the stones. Then he casts invisibility on himself and Cleva. This way they can sneak up on the stones without being noticed. But he warns Cleva to be careful since the spell will break if they take a hard hit. After telling her to stay sharp, Cleva can't help but wonder who this guy really is. He's not just insanely strong. He handles every life or death situation without even blinking. It's like he's lived on the battlefield his whole life. She feels strangely safe by his side. It's a feeling Alan never gave her. Maybe Lloyd is the true legend here. It's not just his incredible magic. It's that unshakable, deep-seated willpower. She's starting to think Lloyd is hiding his true identity. I mean, no ordinary adventurer could be this calm and collected. It's like he's just playing the part of a humble support character. They move out as planned and successfully purify the stones. The once enraged monsters finally start to calm down. Elsewhere, the shield girl is directing everyone to build defenses. They're all lined up and ready for a fight. The guildmaster and knight captain are still worried. But if the shield girl is right, their lives are in Lloyd's hands. She finally admits that the reason they were so successful was all thanks to Lloyd's support magic. But because the hero was so arrogant, Lloyd got kicked out. If he steps in to help, there's still hope. But the guildmaster gives her the bad news. Lloyd isn't even in town. He just left with some S-rank adventurers to clear out monsters at a farm. But knowing Lloyd, the shield girl, is sure that once he hears the town is in trouble, he'll use his support magic to get back here in record time. For now, everyone has to pray she's telling the truth, because there are still so many people who haven't escaped yet. Suddenly, a huge dust cloud appears in the distance. The shield girl immediately orders the archers to take the lead, to thin out the monster horde. Once they're trapped in the trenches, she commands the shield units to hold them down. Then have the mages blast them with everything they've got. Fire at full power. Keep the pressure on, don't stop. For a moment, the guildmaster felt like there was finally a glimmer of hope. Meanwhile, after a long and grueling journey, Yumi and the others finally reached the edge of town. Thanks to the buff Lloyd had cast on them earlier, the magic was still holding strong. So overall, they hadn't really lost much stamina at all. Knowing Ishtar was on the brink of destruction, Yumi and the group didn't even stop to catch their breath before jumping right back onto the trail. Back in the forest, Lloyd had cleared out almost all the mana stones. Now only the final stone remained guarded by Highland wolves and bloodlust panthers. This should be the last one, he thought. With their invisibility still active, they made their move immediately. But the moment the stone was purified, things went south. Since Highland wolves and bloodlust panthers are natural enemies, they started tearing into each other the second the mind control broke. During the chaos of their brawl, Cleva accidentally blew her cover. In an instant, the beasts locked onto her. Seeing her surrounded, Lloyd didn't hesitate. He jumped in to save her, drawing the monster's aggro toward himself. Meanwhile, the battle outside town raged from dawn until late at night. Shield Girl had lost count of how many waves of attacks she'd fought off. Everyone was running on fumes. To make matters worse, another unit was ambushed at that exact moment, taking heavy casualties. The defensive line they'd worked so hard to build was about to crumble. Shield Girl was frantic, but she was powerless to stop it. Just as another beast tide surged toward them, a massive fire tornado swept in, saving the day at the last second. Yui and Silica had finally made it back. Meanwhile, Lloyd was still locked in a desperate struggle with the beasts, barely dodging their claws, thanks to his physical reinforcement magic. But he couldn't keep this up forever. Seeing Lloyd risk his life to save her and all while sticking to his earlier promise, not to harm a single beast, Cleva couldn't just stand by anymore. As Lloyd struggled to hold his ground against the onslaught, she unleashed a magic more incredible than he could have imagined. It was a soulful song that bridged their hearts, allowing her to communicate directly with the monsters. Lloyd was absolutely floored. Cleva apologized to him, thanking him for putting himself in such danger, just to keep his word to her. Now that the beasts were free from their shackles, it was finally time to put an end to this crisis once and for all. Outside the town, the monsters were swarming in even greater numbers. Under someone's dark influence, they launched a brutal assault on the adventurers. Luckily, Yui and the others had come prepared, barely managing to keep the line from breaking. But the ground was already littered with the fallen, and the vanguard was reaching its limit. The mercenaries' swords were dulling, and the mages were completely out of mana potions. Everyone hold the line. Just watch me. We can do this. But even as Shield Girl tried to boost morale, a monster lunged at one of her comrades nearby. To save them, she had to break formation, leaving her exposed. A beast clamped its jaws onto her arm, and blood began to pour from the wound. She realized then that the town was probably lost. But she couldn't give up, not with countless civilians right behind her. As the watchtower was overrun by monsters, the guildmaster's heart sank. It seemed like they really were, powerless against the endless waves of the monster army. But just then, on a hill not far away, Lloyd arrived with Cleva in tow. With Lloyd boosting her magic, a beautiful haunting melody began to echo across the entire battlefield. The once ferocious beasts suddenly went quiet, their rage completely washing away. The adventurers watched in disbelief as the monsters began to retreat. When they saw Lloyd, Yui and the others finally let out a sigh of relief. But after calming the emotions of so many monsters, Cleva had completely drained her mana and nearly collapsed from exhaustion. Even Lloyd was shocked that she could communicate with that many beasts at the same time. It was truly incredible magic. But Cleva knew that on her own. She never could have projected her voice to every single corner of the battlefield. She was curious about what kind of insane support magic Lloyd had used to help her. Lloyd told her that while he did cast a buff, she was the one who truly saved the beasts. Looking into his sincere eyes, she hesitated for a moment before deciding to tell him her real name. It wasn't Cleva, it was Claire. Realizing she probably had a good reason for hiding her identity, Lloyd didn't pry. Besides, the town's crisis was far from over. Monsieur thought his army of 30,000 monsters would easily crush Ishtar's gates. But then, an underling burst in with terrible news. His control over the beasts had vanished. Not only had the monsters stopped their advance, but they were all scattering and running away. Monsieur went pale, having no idea that under Lloyd's protagonist aura, dealing with a crisis like this should have been a piece of cake. But these golems don't seem to care about Claire's singing at all. Looks like a brutal head-on collision is officially unavoidable. Lloyd immediately buffs himself and Claire to boost their stamina. Just as the golems are about to pounce, the reinforcements finally arrive. Honestly, the sight of it nearly gave the knights a heart attack. They're completely floored by Lloyd's sheer power. And thanks to Claire's voice scattering the monster horde, Lloyd is finally able to regroup with Yui and the others. The battle is still incredibly intense right now. But the crew isn't flinching one bit, even against those massive golems. As long as they stick together, they've got this in the bag. Move out, boys. Give them everything you've got. No way. The cavalry actually made it. Watching this go down, the soldiers feel the chills running down their spines and their blood starts pumping. This epic scene gives everyone a glimmer of hope for victory. Krihadshu and his comrades grab their weapons, determined not to back down, no matter how terrifying the enemy looks. You can see the iron will in Lloyd's eyes. Even with things looking sideways, he stays cool as a cucumber. Meanwhile, Claire stays in the back, keeping the incantations going. She's acting like a human battery, providing a constant stream of power for the warriors on the front line. Everyone hold the line. We've got to take this win no matter how many of them there are. We're winning this fight even if it costs us every last drop of sweat. In this very moment, everyone's hearts are beating as one. Lloyd doesn't even have time to explain things to them because those golems are right on his heels breathing down his neck. However, after using magic for so long, even a guy like Lloyd is starting to hit his limit. The crew looks at his exhausted face, and you can see the deep worry in their eyes. But until the danger is gone, our boy can't afford to let his guard down. He hands Claire over to the knights for protection, but then the guildmaster starts sucking up to him, which honestly makes him feel pretty awkward. I mean, since when did he become some big shot worthy of respect? That's when he spots the shield girl and finds out that the heroes party actually started a fight at the Adventurers Guild, and then just bailed when things got real. Lloyd is absolutely livid. The shield girl is bleeding out right in front of him, so ignoring his own exhaustion, he immediately casts a high-level heal to patch her up. In a split second, she's back on her feet. She quickly catches Lloyd as his exhausted body starts to stumble. It turns out Lloyd was the only reason they were even considered the strongest hero party in the first place. But the crazy part is, no one in that group ever realized it. She offers him a sincere apology, but their moment is cut short by a warning from the knights. The golems are launching a massive assault and they're falling right into the trenches. The crew realizes these monsters have some seriously insane defense, and regular old attacks aren't even leaving a scratch. Yeah, it turns out those buffed up golems aren't something ordinary soldiers can handle. When the adventurers strike, it's like they're just tickling them. For a moment, everyone starts to panic since their attacks are useless. Julia sees everyone backing off and she's freaking out. Lloyd decides he's going to cast a reinforcement spell on every single person there. Even though he can only buff one group at a time right now, at the very least, it'll give them a fighting chance against those golems. His friends are honestly kind of speechless when they hear him say that. I mean, usually a white mage can only buff one person at a time period. After hitting everyone with the reinforcement magic, Lloyd is totally spent and almost passes out. He forces himself to stay conscious, telling everyone to break the enemy's formation as fast as possible. He looks over at a nearby watchtower, and a plan finally clicks into place. He shouts down to everyone from his high vantage point. At first, they can't believe Lloyd actually buffed all of them. That is until the shield girl takes the lead and shows them exactly what that power feels like. Yui charges in and cleaves right through a golem. That's when it hits them. They actually have what it takes to take these things down. The shield girl's battle cry from the front lines brings everyone's confidence back. After all, Lloyd literally put his life on the line to give them this chance. And just like that, the human counterattack begins. With Yui leading the charge, the average adventurer's combat power goes through the roof. The archers coordinate their arrows with the mage's fireballs. Kaze and the other shield-bearers pin the golems down so he can blast them into piles of ash. Reports of victory start pouring in from all over the battlefield, and the golems are being wiped out fast. Just when there's only one left, the reinforcement magic wears off at the worst possible moment. With nothing to stop it, the golem heads for the town, but Yui steps up right in its path. Even without Lloyd's support as an S-rank adventurer, he's not about to just give up. Luckily, the shield units and the shield girl jump in just in time to save him. At this point, Lloyd squeezes out every last drop of mana he has left, but he can only manage to buff their weapons. Yui sees the opening and tags in with the shield team. While they're busy tanking the golem's heavy hits, Yui lets out a massive roar and lunges forward, delivering a lightning-fast strike that cuts the golem wide open. The crisis is finally over, and everyone is cheering their heads off for successfully defending Ishtar. As the unsung hero of the hour, Lloyd could finally zonk out and get some sleep. Little did he know someone was lurking on the hillside, quietly keeping a close eye on everything he did. Since Claire had been rescued and the monster army was crushed, the demon's big invasion plan had totally gone up in smoke. Seeing that Michelle had already bolted a furious Grith, started smashing things just to vent his rage. Now that his plan was ruined, he swore he'd kill the guy who messed everything up. The next day, Lloyd finally woke up from his coma. He'd been out for a full 24 hours because his magic reserves were bone dry. Seriously, what do you even do with this kid? He's basically a walking freak of nature. The chaos in the area had finally settled down for good, and the sun was shining bright over the land once again. Lloyd never imagined that when he opened his door, he'd see a massive crowd of people who'd come just to thank him. The whole scene totally freaked him out. After Yuri gave him the lowdown, he finally realized that everyone had fully acknowledged his insane strength. Lloyd, of course, still couldn't believe it. Seeing so many people gathered outside actually made him pretty anxious. In the end, he literally jumped out the window to escape. It seems he'd much rather stay under the radar. Meanwhile, a man was about to knock on Mary's door when a sudden explosion nearly sent him flying. Luckily, his reflexes were top tier, so he didn't end up losing an arm or a leg. The person walking over just then was the alchemist from Mary's old squad. His name is Loki. It was a long overdue reunion for their team today, and Thor and Lily had been waiting inside for Naetes. He'd been looking out for Lloyd in the shadows like Mary asked. But when Loki mentioned Lloyd had been kicked out of the hero party, Mary couldn't help but be shocked. Honestly, she was so happy about it that she didn't even know how to express it. Even though there was so much she wanted to say, they had to finish all their missions in one go, even if some of this stuff sounded totally unbelievable. That's when the comrades suddenly remembered something. Years ago, Mary had picked up a kid on the battlefield. Loki wasn't sure if he should bring it up, but as for Lloyd himself, he seems to have absolutely zero clue that he's actually incredibly powerful. The group eventually tracked him down on the balcony of the Adventurers Guild. He still has no idea why everyone in town is so intent on thanking him. A guard joked, "Hey, it's not like we're gonna kidnap you and eat you." Everyone just wanted to show some real gratitude. After all, he's the big hero who saved the entire town. But Lloyd felt like he'd only provided a tiny, insignificant bit of help to his comrades. His extreme modesty is honestly a huge headache. He's got a totally warped view of his own abilities. Marlin told him he should probably set a new goal for himself. Otherwise, thinking the way he does is just going to be pure torture. Marlin really wants him to have a bit more confidence. Since everyone was saying the same thing, Lloyd tried his best to cheer up. But the guy is just too naive, and he honestly doesn't realize how amazing he actually is. Because of that, he sometimes attracts jealousy from some pretty nasty characters. But Marlin's main goal is to make sure he doesn't end up repeating her own mistakes. Later on, Lloyd finally worked up the courage to walk out onto the main street. Cheers were erupting all around him. As the man of the hour, Lloyd felt super awkward. In his mind, the ones who really saved the town were the knights and adventurers who put their lives on the line. He figured just casting a few support spells didn't earn him the title of hero. But his friends told him to just shut up and take the compliment, as the protagonist he needs to enjoy life a little. Though that forced smile of his looked more like he was in pain than having fun. Meanwhile, the real hero, Alan, looked like he was actually about to cry. He chose to just stand by and watch when everyone needed him most. He's lucky if he only gets kicked out of town. If his luck is really bad, they might even strip him of his hero title entirely. It was clear he couldn't stay there anymore. The three girls had no choice but to follow him as he slunk away. Back on the other side, Loki was still giving Marlin an update on Lloyd. Hearing that Riho became an ace-tier sword fighter at just 17, and that the rest of the team were all pros, Marlin finally felt at ease. The group clinked their glasses and started talking business. The reason they reunited today was to honor the memory of Seville, who sacrificed himself to save everyone back then. Loki brought the latest intel on the demons. This move, where they controlled monsters to try and take down Ishtar, was a clear signal. Though kidnapping beastkin like that is pretty low even for them. But what's even more worrying is, why did the demons choose right now to make a move? Loki has intel suggesting that a new demon king might have appeared. Marlin was stunned. After all, during that final battle, she'd seen the demon king get vaporized in the explosion with her own eyes. Seville even paid the ultimate price to make that happen. Thor told her to calm down. Right now, it's all just speculation, and no one can say for sure if it's true. For now, they have to protect the peace that Seville left behind. A few days later, Lloyd and the others suddenly got a summons from the Lord. Yuri was worried she'd accidentally caused some kind of disaster. By the way, I'm Baptiste. This friendly-looking guy suddenly pops up, leaving them totally clueless. They figure he's probably just the Lord's butler, but when they step inside, they find Clea's been waiting for them for ages. At first, Yui thinks this guy was also summoned by the Lord. Little does she know this butler is actually the real Lord himself. Who would have guessed the local ruler was such a young hotshot guy? Didn't they say he'd been in office for over 10 years? Lloyd points out. That Marin is in the same boat, so he's likely using some kind of beauty magic. The Lord, with a permanent grin, says if they want to swap skincare secrets, they can do it later. The real reason he called them here is because he actually needs their help with something. Foolish. Turcocano Dynastohe. Then the Lord brings up Clea's magic. When asked for his thoughts, Lloyd says it's amazing, but also kinda terrifying. Because controlling magic beasts is a total double-edged sword. The Lord says her talent is unique, so they can't let her fall into the demon's hands again. He's already notified the Empire, and they said they'll meet her at the royal capital to take her home. But for the trek from Ishtar to the capital, the Lord wants the group to act as her escort. Sending the royal knights would just draw too much attention. If a foreign princess gets hurt on his watch, it could turn into a massive diplomatic nightmare. After all, the demons have been eyeing her for a long time. So after some talk, Clea decides to go undercover with the adventurer party on their way to the capital. Everyone's a bit stiff at first since they just found out she's actually a princess. But Clea asks them to just treat her like they did before. After all, they're still friends when they're off the clock. In the end, Yui is the one who breaks the ice. And just like that, the group's journey to the royal capital officially begins.